Jasmine Daniels, a calm yet resilient martial arts instructor, never imagined that a quiet evening at the local community center would catapult her into the heart of a movement for justice. In a city still scarred by past abuses of power, Jasmine found herself at the intersection of personal strength and public accountability. When she was asked to help retrain those responsible for enforcing the law, the conflict she faced was no longer just physical. It became a battle between fear and hope, silence and courage. What unfolded next would ripple far beyond the mats of her dojo. That evening had started like any other. Jasmine finished her self-defense class at the Sycamore Community Center, guiding a group of women through drills designed to foster both confidence and safety. She collected the gear, dimmed the lights, and stepped into the crisp night air. Her walk home took her through Madison Park, a shortcut she'd used countless times. But something felt off. A squad car briefly flashed its lights, then pulled back into the shadows. Jasmine noted the anomaly but pressed forward, her gym bag over her shoulder and her instincts on high alert. As she passed through a poorly lit stretch of path, Officer Colin Whitaker stepped from the shadows, flashlight beam cutting across her vision. "Hands where I can see them," he barked, already gripping his baton. Jasmine complied cautiously, her voice calm as she answered his barrage of suspicious questions. Her bag containing only training gear was searched without cause. When she refused to fully unpack it again, having already shown him the contents, Whitaker's demeanor turned aggressive. His baton rose. His taser buzzed. But Jasmine, trained in discipline and control, refused to be provoked. She remained composed, responding only when absolutely necessary to protect herself. Her deflection of his baton strike and disarming of his wild attempts to control her were efficient and nonviolent. Witnesses emerged from the nearby jogging trail. Phones recorded everything. Whitaker escalated again, firing his taser and lunging. Jasmine dodged each attempt, neutralizing his aggression without throwing a single punch. Eventually, another officer arrived, Sergeant Michael Hagesa, composed, seasoned leader who quickly took control. After listening to Jasmine's account and reviewing witness videos, he relieved Officer Whitaker of duty on the spot. Word spread quickly. The community, having grown used to these stories ending in silence, now watched as accountability began to take root. Internal Affairs launched an investigation. Media outlets picked up the story. Jasmine, though shaken, continued teaching. Weeks later, Sergeant Hughes returned with a proposition. "We're rewriting our training program," he said. "We need voices like yours." Jasmine hesitated, the trauma of that night still fresh, but she nodded. Change would only come if people like her stepped forward. Her first session with the police department was tense. Some officers met her with skepticism, others with quiet curiosity. But she taught with the same calm strength she had shown that night in the park. She taught them what real control looked like. Months passed. Jasmine became a fixture in the department's new training initiatives. Community trust slowly rebuilt. Officers learned to see civilians not as threats, but as people. One evening at a town hall in the same community center where her journey had begun, Jasmine addressed a packed room. "Strength isn't about force," she said. "It's about restraint. It's about standing firm without dehumanizing anyone." Applause followed, quiet but lasting. Jasmine stepped down from the podium, knowing her path wasn't finished. But she had started something. And she would continue to lead by example. Because real strength, she had learned, was standing tall when others tried to push you down and helping others learn to do the same. As the weeks unfolded, Jasmine Carter's name quietly began circulating through city council meetings, internal memos, and whispered conversations in precinct hallways. Some saw her as a symbol of resistance. Others saw her as a threat to the status quo. But Jasmine, for her part, continued showing up every day at the community center, teaching her classes with the same calm, focused energy she always had. The bruises from that night had long since faded, but the weight of it never left her shoulders. It changed her posture not with heaviness, but with resolve. Word spread faster than anyone expected. The footage had gone viral, shared, reposted, dissected by legal analysts and activists alike. News anchors debated whether she was a hero or just lucky, while others quietly admitted she had done what few could, stand tall without striking back. Then came the letters. First, a trickle handwritten notes slid under the center's front door. A mother whose daughter had once frozen in fear around police. A young man who admitted he'd nearly dropped out of college after his own run-in with an angry patrolman. People from all over began sharing their stories with Jasmine, not because she asked them to, but because they finally believed someone would listen. Jasmine began collecting them in a shoebox under her desk. At night, after the last student left and the lights dimmed, she would sit with a mug of tea, pull out a letter and read. Sometimes they made her cry. Sometimes they made her furious. But every time, they made her more certain that what happened in that park wasn't just about her, and the work ahead was bigger than self-defense lessons or viral footage. One rainy Tuesday afternoon, as clouds pressed low over Ashton City and the sidewalks shimmered in reflections, Jasmine received an unexpected visitor. Detective Laura Mitchell, from Internal Affairs, stepped into the community center without fanfare. Her expression was unreadable, but her presence felt like the turning of a page. "We've concluded the investigation," Mitchell said, once they were seated in Jasmine's office. "Officially, Officer Todd Reynolds is terminated from the department. Unofficially, his badge will never protect him again." Jasmine nodded once. There was no celebration in her face, only a quiet acknowledgement. Justice, after all, was not a finish line, it was a battle of inches. "There's more," Mitchell continued. "The department's launching a civilian oversight panel. We'd like you to be part of it." Jasmine leaned back slowly, eyes narrowing slightly. "To be the face of reform?" "No," Mitchell said plainly. "To be a voice that can't be ignored." Jasmine looked out the window where a group of teens were gathered under the shelter of the eaves, laughing between raindrops. She thought of all the nights she'd walked home afraid. She thought of the baton, the taser, the cameras, the silent crowd that turned into a chorus. "All right," she said quietly. "But I'm not here to soften the truth. If I do this, I do it my way. That's exactly why we want you." The first meeting of the oversight panel was quiet, tense. A mix of department brass, legal advisors, and civilians, some skeptical, some defensive. Jasmine entered the room with no fanfare, just a folder tucked under one arm and the same quiet grace she always carried. She didn't speak first. She listened. And when she finally did speak, it was with clarity that left no room for denial. "If your policies can't withstand transparency," she said, voice calm but cutting, "then your department isn't protecting anyone. It's only protecting itself." From that day forward, the tone of the meetings changed. Slowly, reluctantly. But change began to creep in through the cracks. Months passed. One evening, Jasmine was closing up the center when a familiar voice called out behind her. It was Sergeant Marcus Hill, dressed down in jeans and a light jacket, holding a folder. "I thought you'd want to see this," he said, passing it to her. Inside was a draft proposal for a new training program mandatory for all new recruits, focused on de-escalation, cultural awareness, and community-based engagement. At the bottom, in black ink, were 3 words designed with Carter. Her name, attached to something real. Jasmine blinked, caught off guard. "You're serious about this?" Hill nodded. "We can't undo what happened, but we can build better from it." Later that week, Jasmine stood at the front of a lecture hall at the police academy. Rows of fresh recruits stared at her, some unsure, some defiant, but all listening. She told them her story not with bitterness, but with purpose. She didn't sanitize what happened. She didn't protect their feelings. But she reminded them that their job, at its core, was not to control but to protect. "You carry more than a weapon," she told them. "You carry the weight of every citizen who looks at you and wonders if they'll be heard. You carry the trust of people who've been taught that uniform means danger." When she finished, the room was silent. Not in defiance, in respect. Back at the community center, Jasmine pinned a note to the corkboard near the front door. It read, "We don't rise by striking back. We rise by standing firm." By spring, she'd begun mentoring other instructors, expanding the self-defense program to 3 other neighborhoods. Her face appeared in a city-sponsored campaign, not polished, not filtered. Just jasmine-braided hair pulled back, stance strong, hands open. A quiet reminder that real strength doesn't always shout. Sometimes it just refuses to bow.